Hello world, it is your friendly neighborhood nerd herder here, and I am here to talk about something. But before that, happy 4th of July everyone, enjoy your fireworks and cookouts. Now make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you did, or if you enjoyed this video, or if you want to just press those buttons or screens. But anyways, I was going to talk about something 4th of July related, or Captain America. But then I was just like, people are probably doing that. So, let's do Independence Day. And then I was just like, if Independence Day had a comic book, then that would probably be more of a short. So, I decided to think more about freedom. Freedom, freedom, free. So, let's talk about the history of Free Comic Book Day. So, how old do you think Free Comic Book Day is? If you already know, don't leave it in the comments. But if you weren't around before the first Free Comic Book Day, how old do you think it is? Leave it in the comments. Now, I'll leave a response, so a little bit of time so you can do it. I'm blabbering and blah blah blah. In 2001, a retailer slash event promoter slash partner in, WonderCon, a Joe Field wrote a column in a magazine called Comics and Games Retailer, which proposed an idea for Free Comic Book Day. And after a generally positive response from the community from the column called Big Picture, a co-founder from Image Comics, Jim Valentino, suggested to do the first Free Comic Book Day with the release of 2002 Spider-Man, the Sam Raimi, Tobey Maguire, that one. Now let's take a side note to talk about something else. There was a superhero pop culture trend for movies from the 90s, generally starting with Tim Burton's Batman, 1989 with that series in the 90s, then to Spawn, and the X-Men in the early 2000s, and that stuff, which increased a pop cultural influence in, our community, and it also increased sales and brought in new people outside of, the OG fans to the people who were always into comics. But getting back to the first comic book day, it was actually on May the 4th, be with you. But in 2002, the first Free Comic Book Day was on May 4th, and they offered 4 free comic books. However, none of them were Fantastic Four. So let's get Marvel's out the way, since it was a reprint. However, it was a reprint of Ultimate Spider-Man by Brian Michael Bendis. Now, that was a reprint from 2 years prior, when it originally came out in 2000. And the other two we'll discuss next are one-shots or specials created just for Free Comic Book Day. And that would be from Dark Horse when they had Star Wars Tales, A Jedi's Weapon, and then Image and Top Cows Productions, before Image took over control and became the powerhouse it is, with Tomb Raider 1.5. The video game, Lara Croft. Damn it, Conan. But anyways, the last one we'll talk about was DC's, because they actually introduced a number 1 for their free comic, which was the number 1 for a series that they were creating based off of a popular cartoon at the time, with Justice League Adventures. But anyways, retail shops would order these free comics for pennies on the order. And how would this work, and how could comic shops possibly make money when giving out free comic books when they have to spend money on it? Well, I can't do air quotes on pennies because that's still money. I remember getting candy for pennies. at a shop. But it was still like 15 cents for a Fireball, so is it really pennies when it could be nickels? But let's get back to it. First of all, retailers offer specials on stocks, generally graphic novels, and back issues. However, they do like not paintings, but posters, Funko Pops, toys, figurines, manga. They offer more than just comic books at this point, but they still get the free comic books from the Diamond Comic Distributors, who at one time was the biggest comic book distributor in America. I don't know how it is now, especially since they went bankrupt and got acquired by Columbia. But back into how retailers can get money from Free Comic Book Day, they can offer signings, community events like a cosplay contest, raffles where you could like pay a little money, do things like games. I mean, with the raffle, you pay a little bit of money, you get a ticket, and then you can win a prize depending on what ticket is, pulled. I've even seen a game where it's sort of like the, I can't remember what it's called, but it's where they drop a disc and it hits pegs and it bounces down. And depending on what you land, you could get a $20 comic, a figure, or like buy one, get one free, whatever. It's been a while since I've seen it. But anyways, that's a huge deal with it, because Free Comic Book Day has become more of a community event that also increases sales, or tries to increase sales in comic book shops. But it is also trying to increase the variety of comics available to the public. Because at some point during this event, I want to say like mid 2010s, they started offering around 50 to 60 free comic books for retailers to choose from. Now, depending on your area, you might get someone who gets 50 or all of them. Sometimes the bigger shops in the smaller area might get 10 to 25. And luckily, you might get an area that offers 6 but only lets you take 1. But, a free comic is a free comic, and if you can get more than that, then more power to you. And to the retailers, you still gotta try to make a buck after all, but it's still awesome to help out the community by, getting little kids free comics to read. That, it's just awesome. Also really cool for a kid who didn't really have much money trying to buy more comics, and then you get like a comic book legal defense fund, where you have like an anthology of different heroes or comics, where it's just like promoting literacy or how cool comics are. But that's about it, without getting into like math of it, and I don't want to do that. So one last little tidbit, leave it off to you. And before that, what is your favorite ice cream flavor? Leave that down below in the comment if you want to. But Joe Field had an ice cream shop right by his comic book shop, and they offered a free scoop night like once a week, and he would go there and other people would go, and they would end up getting more ice cream than that one free scoop. Some people would still just go for the free scoop, but most of the time other people would just go and get more. And take a guess what that shop was. It was Baskin Robbins. So yeah, Baskin Robbins helped influence comic books and left a huge impact on it, just by coincidence. And I don't even know if that was a thing Baskin Robbins did on a national level. If they did, I will probably have it green screen. So that'll be cool. We're chilling. But yeah, Thank you for watching if you made it this far. I hope you have a happy 4th. Enjoy the fireworks, the hot dogs, hamburgers, or whatever you want to partake. Keep on doing you and keep nerding out. Have a good one.